Okay, I'm going to call the Washoe County Planning Commission of Tuesday, October 6, 2020 to order. Can we have a determination of a quorum, please?
Larry Chesney,
Present?
Francine Donchik,
Present.
Thomas Bruce. Tom?
Thomas Bruce?
He's
Here.
Sarah Savilchek,
Present.
Kate Nelson,
Present.
Larry Payton,
Here.
Patricia Phillips.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, before we do the pledge, I want to do an introductory statement. Any participants wishing to speak via Zoom shall sign in and identify themselves with their first and last names when they're called upon. If you are not a panelist and you wish to speak, please click the raise your hand prompt symbol during the public comment portion of the item you wish to speak on. All panelists on Zoom should mute their mics until they're ready to speak. If anyone has difficulty hearing the audio through Zoom, it may be useful to use earbuds. In order to be able to see the chamber and presentations, please ensure you open an additional tab to stream Washoe County TV Live or YouTube. Please be aware YouTube may have a delay versus the actual chamber proceedings. So we'll move on to the pledge. Commissioner Donchik, would you lead us in the pledge?
Of course. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Nate Edwards, our counsel, could you tell us about the ethics law, regulations and rules?
Nate is not on the Zoom meeting.
Uh-oh. Trevor.
Trevor Lloyd, would you please tell us about the ethics law announcement?
Excuse me, Nate is now here. Let me promote him.
Huh?
He's here now.
Late Nate. Nate's never late.
He's usually.
All right, you ready for the ethics announcement?
Sure are. Thanks, Nate.
Yep. Hold on one second. All right. Commission members are reminded that if with respect to any matter or any person coming before the board today, 1, you have received a gift or loan. 2, you have a pecuniary interest. 3, you have a commitment in a private capacity, such as a family, employment, business, or similar relationship. Or 4, you provided representation or counseling before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter being considered tonight. Then you must disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. And you must furthermore abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it is clear that the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Board members are also reminded that under the Planning Commission rules, if you have had any contact outside this meeting with any persons interested in a matter coming before the commission tonight, you should disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Lloyd, do you want to read us the appeal procedure, please?
Yep. Most decisions rendered by the Planning Commission are appealed to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Planning Commission and you want to appeal its action, you may do so in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is signed by the Planning Commission Chair and/or the Secretary of the Planning Commission, filed with the Secretary of the Planning Commission, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and application fee.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open this up for any general public comment. Any person is invited to speak on any item on or off the agenda during this period. Action may not be taken on any matter raised during this public comment period until the matter is specifically listed on an agenda as an action item. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Well, moving right along. like to have, entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Chair Chesney, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Commissioner Doncheck and Commissioner Civilacek, first and second. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll take a vote. All in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, item number 7, possible action to approve the September 1st, 2020 draft minutes.
Chair Chesney, I make a motion to approve.
You got a second? Oh, did Larry Payton second? Commissioner Doncheck made the motion. All in favor of approving the draft minutes? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. Okay, we're going to move on to item 8, public hearings. The first public hearing item is Mr. Lloyd. Please enlighten us.
Okay, this is Development Code Amendment, case number WDCA 20-0002, for the amendment to Article 412 landscaping for possible action, hearing, and discussion to amend Washoe County Code, Chapter 110 within Article 412 landscaping, in order to A, clarify where the standards of Article 412 apply, B, clarify the process for review of extenuating circumstances for modification of standards, C, clarify the requirements for landscaping plans, D, require water conservation measures, E, require preservation of significant trees, F, provide for greater flexibility in design of civic and commercial required landscaping, G, clarify that durable materials are required for screening fences, H, update standards for numbers of required trees, shrubs, and ground cover, I, provide standards for revegetation and disturbed areas, and J, update standards for financial assurances and other matters necessarily connected therewith and pertaining thereto, and if approved, authorize the chair to sign a resolution to this effect. So representing Washoe County in this matter is Senior Planner Roger Pelham.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Roger Pelham. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. For the record, again, Roger Pelham with Washoe County Planning. What I would like to do is start out with by just saying that the intent of this amendment overall is really to remove subjectivity from the landscaping code. What we had before was a series of standards in which we sort of had to judge in the field whether or not we felt those standards were met. What we wanted to do in most cases was go from that qualitative evaluation to a quantifiable evaluation. That is to say, numbers by square foot, that sort of thing. Now, with that, we also took the opportunity to have a series of meetings with several of the local experts in the field, landscape architects, other planners, and we incorporated many of the suggestions from that group as well as from the public. So with that, what I'm going to do is go ahead and attempt to share my screen here and go to my PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Can you see my PowerPoint? You should be seeing the first slide.
Yes.
Wonderful. Let me go to this next one. Trevor has already read each of these individual changes that are proposed. So we will go right on to sort of an overview. We haven't had an update of Article 412 since the early 1990s when this code was initially adopted, when the development code itself was initiated. Again, many of these standards were difficult to evaluate in the field, and that leads to subjectivity in evaluation rather than objectivity. And again, that's what these current amendments are intended to eliminate. Now, the entire proposed code is available for you in your staff report. That is Exhibit 1A. There are a number of places within the proposed code where each of these, the different goals or the different stated items in the description have been included. So to clarify where the standards apply, we're at 412.10.40.67, the requirements for plans at 412.15, to require conservation measures where before those were recommended but not required. Likewise, with significant trees, the preservation of trees that are 6 inches or greater in diameter was encouraged but not required. Perhaps the most important aspect of these code changes really come under the heading of the greater flexibility for design in civic and commercial uses. And then there are many places where we put in there that fences need to be a durable materials. In our climate, I think most of us know, particularly for civic and commercial uses, wooden fences really just don't stand up in the long term. So we really want metal, or more likely concrete, or other durable materials. But what I would like to spend the most time of really is this flexibility in design that we're sort of building into this code. And while we have not reduced the amount of overall landscaping required, again, for civic and commercial uses, 20% of the developed area is required to be landscaped. However, what we have wanted to do is, instead of requiring previously, or I should say as the code exists today, within 1 year of planting, you have to have 50% of that area covered with vegetation, and theoretically within 3 years, you have to have 100% covered with vegetation. We live in a high desert environment. That's frankly nonsensical, and we really want to get rid of that. So what we've done is provided a number of ways that the applicant can be creative in their design. And what we have said is that there's going to be 1 tree for every 300 square feet. There's going to be a certain number of shrubs, again, per each tree. That gives us, again, a quantifiable number that we can look at when we're in the field and frankly when we're looking at the plans. But also, this section here allows the reduction of that ground cover if the applicant provides other things, such as boulders, which are an attractive addition to landscaping and don't require water, hardscaped areas such as plazas, and then we also go into, well, I should say plazas and other amenities that might be approved by the director. Again, we didn't want to curb someone's creativity by saying it has to be a plaza, but rather that or something else. They may very well come up with ideas that we did not. And then finally, the mitigation of undeveloped portions of a site. Many times an undeveloped area will be disturbed. It'll get some revegetation thrown on it at some point, but really in the long term, it just sort of turns into a just kind of a dirt area. Well, we now have a standard that we can apply to that and say, we can say, yes, the mitigation will be successful when the vegetation there is 70% of what it is on the adjacent undisturbed areas. And I have to say, this sub 1 here and sub 2 are really sort of perhaps the most important bits of change that we're proposing, because again, this allows a lot of discretion and a lot of creativity, I should say not discretion, but creativity on the part of the applicant. Again, ground cover, we're trying to get rid of those subjective standards when we go out and look at the ground. Hey, is it 50%? Really, that's just sort of a subjective judgment on my part when I'm looking at the landscape area. So we're, again, getting rid of that, but allowing these boulders. We're requiring things like wood chips and bark throughout all of the planting areas, so that what we don't have is a bunch of plants with nothing but bare dirt in between. Decomposed granite has been a fairly popular ground cover in between some of these plants, but it was kind of felt, particularly among the professionals, the landscape architects that we consulted with, that it's probably not a particularly attractive one. So that would be limited, but it is cheap and it's easy to apply. So we're going to limit that one to about half, again, to encourage creativity and variation in the various materials. And then again, while we inferred that you need to have edging in between the plant materials and the other ground cover areas, it wasn't specifically stated. So we have included that here. But again, the previous slide and this slide are really perhaps the most important bits of this new code. So that being said, on to more housekeeping items. Notice of this proposed code change was published in the RGJ, as well as all of the members of the CABs all within Washoe County were also provided notice. 4 findings are necessary for approval of a development code amendment. That is, it be consistent with the master plan, that it promotes the purpose of the development code, it responds to change conditions. And I think that's perhaps the most important one in this case, because really we're looking at responding to the fact that we live in a high desert environment and that our previous code was probably inappropriate for that, particularly requiring 100% vegetative coverage, which virtually never actually occurred. So it was really sort of a poor code in several ways. And again, no adverse effects. And in fact, I think that what this will do is encourage creativity in design. And I have more comments on each one of those, pages 4 and 5 of your staff report. With that, I would like to recommend that the Washoe County Planning Commission approve this development code amendment. And this possible motion is also provided in your staff report. And with that, I am available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Roger. Do any of the commissioners have any questions of Roger?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, before we get into questions, just I just wanted to make one qualifying statement or clarifying. The landscape ordinance 412 does not apply to individual residences. It's commercial, industrial, civic uses, and common area in certain subdivisions in that, just so you have that in the back of your minds.
Any questions?
Chair Chesney.
Commissioner Sabelic?
Thank you. I just want to compliment staff on updating this and paying attention to water conservation and high desert climate and such. So excellent work.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Okay.
It has to do with my understanding of things, I guess. I am looking at page 4 of 26, and it talks about a director of community development under item 2, and then it talks about under the second item D, a director of planning and building. And
Correct it in both spots.
then,
You're in Exhibit B, right?
yes.
Okay.
Sorry. My question has to do with, as I cannot seem to locate which directors get to issue a modification, since there doesn't seem to be a limit. It just talks about a director's modification of standards, and it talks about the approval in some cases, or just for that. And I am asking what directors can make modifications, because I can't find a specific limitation. And based on the language, it would appear that possibly the director of public health could make a modification. And that is in a number of other items that are referred to, and I can give them. And I have a problem understanding how is that approved? Who approves that?
Okay. If I may, Mr. Chair?
Sure, Roger, go.
Great. If I missed Director of Planning and Development or Director of Community Development at one location, there were many. Our director is the Director of Planning and Development, and a director's modification of standards is in fact a process that we have in-house that requires an application. There's a fee, there's an evaluation, but any modification of standards to Article 412 would be by the Director of Planning and Building, currently Moira Howenstein.
And that's clarified in D,
It says the director, yeah.
the review of extenuating circumstances. It specifies planning and building, so the director of planning and building. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, not exactly, because in the previous D, it talks about it talks about the director of community development, subject to the approval of a director's modification of standards. And that would appear to imply the director of community development making that modification.
Each one is different.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Bruce, can you tell us which page you were just referring to?
On 4 of 26, Exhibit B.
It's at,
26, Exhibit B.
Mr. Lloyd, it's the
Top
two
of the
Ds at the
page.
top of the
He's got two
page.
Ds there. Review, the provisions of the article and then the review of extenuating circumstances.
He put two
The-
Ds, and that's the question, yeah.
Was a typo, looks like that should be an E.
Yes, that
yeah.
should be an E, that's that, but that's not.
Yes.
If I may, Chair Chesney.
Yes.
So, Mr. Lloyd, when the first D, so the other D will be an E, but it says the provision of this article may be waived by the Director of Community Development for development in areas under the jurisdiction of the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. So, so it should just read the Director of Planning and Building under the jurisdiction, in areas under the jurisdiction of Tahoe Regional Planning, correct?
Or they do two separate.
I don't know if this is referring to the director of, for TRPA, the Director of Community Development. I'll ask, Roger, are you there? Can you answer that question?
Yes, I am. That is simply one that I missed of the many places where
Okay.
Director of Community Development should have been replaced with
Okay,
Director
so-
of Planning and Building.
And if I may add, we are in the process of beginning our update to the master plan. Throughout the master plan, you're going to find that it references the Director of Community Development, and maybe other names. We've gone through multiple different name changes over the years, and so we're always updating those names. And we do apologize, we missed that. We will make that correction moving forward, and we'll make that correction throughout our development code as well as our master plan. Thank you.
I have another point later on in the same exhibit. It has to do with, excuse me, I'm getting there. It appeared to me that there was another, hang on, my apologies. Maybe, is that it? Yes, it's on page 5, and it talks about, it's section 110.412.15, talks about required plans. And it reads, a site plan, planting plan, and an irrigation plan are required. Then it goes comma, then it strikes, and the soil analysis is strongly encouraged or required. My point is a soil analysis strongly encouraged? And that's why there was a comma after the are required preceding it.
Well, soil's not required anymore, so I'm confused.
Mr. Chair, if I may address that?
Yes, of course, Roger.
No, we are going to strike that. We
struck
believe that the
soil.
professionals who are required to prepare these plans will know whether or not they need to do a soils analysis. We rarely received them, and frankly, I wouldn't understand them if we did, so we felt that it was really unnecessary.
Then could I make a suggestion? Strike the comma.
Where?
Sure.
After the word
Where
required.
are you at?
Yes.
For
I'm
Christ's
confused.
sakes.
Grammatically, I believe we should strike the comma there.
So it will read,
That is why I asked the question, and I'm done. Thank you.
Well, I'm confused because I don't know
It's
where you
after
were
the
at.
word required in the first sentence. A site plan,
Oh,
planting,
site plan comma, is that,
after the word required, so striking the comma.
okay.
It is
All right.
on 6 also.
Okay, any further comments or questions of staff? Well, seeing none,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I believe a hand was raised
oh,
over there.
well, speak up.
Mr. Chair, on page 6, same thing. Soil analysis on D, after 4, at the top of the page. Also, you go down the page, after striking out soil analysis, it says on H, the use of soil amendments based on soil analysis.
So it's left in there on H.
Am I reading that wrong?
The use of soil amendments based on, yeah, you're right. So, Roger,
Did you catch that, Roger?
Page 6 of the
He's
draft.
looking.
Exhibit B.
under water conservation, you're talking about G, right?
H.
Or, excuse me,
H.
H.
Yeah.
Since we're striking it up there, it should have been.
We're gonna strike
Strike
that?
it down here, I think.
Roger, you there?
I am, but I'm a little lost in my own staff report.
Page 6, Exhibit B, under water conservation.
H.
H.
At the top of the page, D that you scribed out, and then it goes down into section 110, 412, 20, under water conservation, and then H says the use of soil amendments will be based on a soil analysis. So are we going to have a soil analysis or not have a soil analysis?
Right. Actually, no, that should be left in. And the reason why that is because what we are doing is providing a list here of many different things that they might do for water conservation, but they need to pick 4 of them. So if they choose to do the amendments based on the analysis,
Oh, I
then they do
gotcha.
the analysis, but we're not requiring analysis in all circumstances,
Okay.
only in that very limited circumstance.
Oh, yeah, okay, so they got to pick 4 out of the whole batch. Okay,
Yes.
gotcha. Good answer. Are there any other comments or questions of staff? Mr. Edwards, do we have to open this for public
Yes.
comment?
It's a public hearing item, yeah.
Okay, then I guess no further questions of staff from the commission. I'm going to open up to public comment. Is there any public comment on this?
No public comment.
Seeing no public comment, are there any further questions or comments of staff? Seeing none, is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Chair Chesney,
Commissioner Savilicek,
I'm prepared to make a motion.
by all means.
I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing on the Washoe County Planning Commission, 1, adopt the resolution attached as Exhibit A to the staff report to amend Washoe County Chapter 410 Development Code within Article 412 Landscaping, and number 2, authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Planning Commission. I further move to direct staff to bring the amendments to the Board of County Commissioners for a hearing within 60 days of the date of the adoption. This recommendation for approval is based on all following 4 findings in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110.818.15, Section E.
Do you have,
Chair Chesney, I do have a question. Do we have to make record of the corrections when we do this, or should that be part of the motion?
I don't think it has to be part of the motion.
I don't know.
I think it probably would help to say it with the corrections identified through the meeting.
Okay.
I will add to that motion with the corrections as identified in the discussion with the commission and the planner.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have,
Mr. Chair, I want to clarify something. This is
Sure.
council. So in the discussion that you had about the second subsection D, and the director's modification, this is 110.412.05, and we're on page 4 of 26 in Exhibit B.
and so you're just adding that to the motion? Is that what you're,
No, I want to make sure it's clear what is being done to the ordinance here before the motion gets voted on. So the proposed language, and I get that there's a second subsection D, that's a typo. That's a simple fix. In the review of extenuating circumstances, there was a question, it said the applicant may appeal to the Director of Planning and Building for special review resulting from extenuating circumstances or physical conditions on the proposed project site, subject to the approval of a director's modification of standards. And what change was it that was agreed on in your discussion as a group?
It was 2.
Mr. Edwards, may I?
Yes, please.
I should say, Mr. Chairman, may I?
sure.
On the first of the 2 Ds, and yes, that is a typo, and that's on me. The first of those 2, it says the provision made by the Director of Community Development. It is my understanding that we will correct that to the Director of Planning and Building. It
Okay.
is correct in the second D. It is incorrect in the first D. And of course, second D will be renumbered to E.
Got it. So the first D, it's going to Director of Planning and Building,
Uh-huh.
Yes.
and that's it.
I think
yeah,
there needs to be a thorough review of it because it's also in item 2
Exactly.
where
Which
it
I thought he was talking about.
refers to the Director of Community Development. So I think it needs to be reviewed throughout the whole document.
Yeah. Just needs to be consistent.
Yes.
Yeah, but for right now, what I'm getting at is I want to know what change is on the table on the 2 subsection Ds. Is that it for the first subsection D and the second subsection D?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, then what I think to
I
address,
thought item 2 was
Was
to
also
be
part of it.
changed to the Director of Planning and Building
Right.
as well.
in the second subsection D.
No.
No,
And
item 2 preceding
very top.
the first and second subsection Ds.
it reads right now, Nate, it reads, unless the Director of Community Development waives this requirement in whole or in part prior to the expansion, that should be the Director of Planning and Building also. So, as Commissioner
Oh, yes,
Nelson
yes.
said.
Okay, so here's
Document and make sure.
yeah, here's my suggestion based on Commissioner Nelson's comment, is I think the motion should include the corrections that were discussed specifically and should include the replacement of Director of Community Development with Director of Planning and Building wherever it appears in the article.
I will amend my motion to reflect such.
And I will approve the amended reflection.
Thank you.
Is there any further comment or discussion before I call for a vote? I'm waiting. Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you all very much.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to really express my appreciation to Roger with this.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Roger.
To say that this is years and years overdue is an understatement, and I know Roger had a full slate of, he just had a full workload, but still said this is that important that he wanted to get this thing through. So thank you, Roger.
Yes, thank you, Roger. So let's move on to item B, Development Code Amendment, case number WDCA 20-003, Article 434 and 822.
All right, this item before you is for a possible action, hearing, and discussion to initiate an amendment to the Washoe County Code at Chapter 110 to remove Article 434, Regional Development Standards within cooperative planning areas and all of Washoe County, and remove all sections within the article, including 43400, Introduction, 43405, Purpose, 43410, Applicability, 43415, Definitions, 43420, Density, 43425, Lot Adjacency, 43430, Ridge Lines, and 43435, Earthquake Fault Areas. And remove Article 822, Provisions of Amendments to Local Master Plans and Zone Changes in Areas Subject to Cooperative Planning under the Regional Plan Settlement Agreement, and remove all sections within the article, including 82200 Introduction, 82205 Purpose, 82210 Applicability, 82215 Definitions, 82220 Master Plan Policies and Goals and Zoning Amendments Criteria, 82225 Findings for Regional Form and Pattern, including open space, 82230 Findings for Housing, 82235 Findings for Concurrency, Timing, and Phasing of Infrastructure, 82240 Findings for Public Service Levels and Fiscal Effect, and 82245 Findings for open space, resource constraints, and cooperative planning considerations not elsewhere addressed. If the proposed amendment is initiated, a public hearing and further possible action to deny, recommend approval recommend approval of the proposed amendment will occur, and if approval is recommended, to authorize the chair to sign a resolution to that effect. These amendments are designed to comport with the 2019 amendment to the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan, which eliminated cooperative planning areas. And with that, representing Washoe County is Planner Julie Olander.
Good evening, Julie Olander with Planning and Building.
Welcome.
So this is both an amendment, an initiation and an amendment to the Development Code to remove Article 434 and 822. So in 2002, Truckee Meadows Regional Plan created the cooperative planning areas in response to the Regional Plan Settlement Agreement. The areas that were designated were ones that were adjacent to one or more jurisdictions, and then the jurisdictions were going to collaborate on creating a more cooperative planning process, and they were to develop standards for those areas. Washoe County added Article 434 and 822 to the Development Code to provide those standards and a planning process. And the purpose of both these articles are stated to implement certain portions of the settlement agreement and to function as the master documents for the settlement agreement. Cooperative planning areas were showed in the regional plan up through 2012. However, in 2019, the regional plan did not move forward with the cooperative planning areas, and they were removed off of map 7 where they had previously been shown. However, map 7 has been reserved for any future cooperative plans that may be created by the jurisdictions. So even though that the 2019 regional plan did not identify the cooperative planning areas, it's still possible to have cooperative planning for the regional plan. However, at this point, Washoe County staff is proposing to remove these articles since the 2019 regional plan no longer designates these specific areas any longer. A public workshop was held through Zoom on September 1st. There were some attendees basically just asking what the implications were of removing these articles. And then there was a notice published in the Reno Gazette also. These are the 4 findings for their code amendment. And I just want to point out that I think finding 3 and 4 are the key ones for this item. Removing these 2 articles is a response to the changing conditions. They are no longer in the regional plan. And then also there's no adverse effects because the regional plan does no longer identify cooperative planning. Staff is able to make all 4 findings, and the initiation and the amendment motions are found in your staff report. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Julie. Do any of the members of the commission have any questions or comments for staff?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I have a question since I am new here and was not involved in the planning for this. I have a question as to the cooperative agreement applying to areas that are very rural. I just would like an explanation.
I do believe, Commissioner Phillips, that if you take a look at the back of your packet for this staff report, there is a map that shows the cooperative planning areas, and really these standards were adopted to address those areas. So really not the rural areas, it's more inside and adjacent to the TMSA. Yeah.
Chair Chesney?
Commissioner Spillier.
If I could ask or maybe a point of clarification, is that at the time the regional plan was being updated, there was one cooperative agreement still on the books, correct? And that would be the Reno-Stead Joint Corridor?
Right. And we eliminated.
And we eliminated that?
Correct.
We did eliminate, yes. There are no more joint plans.
Right. Okay. So just for clarification, there are no joint plans. And that was the only one, and we removed that one, so.
What this was, in addition to that, thank you, Ms. Chair, I'm sorry, I'm so used to calling you Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Spillier. In addition, though, what this represents is if properties are going through a discretionary process, we are required to contact the cities in which there may be some impact to those cities. We do that, though, currently. We send out all of our applications to both the cities of Reno and Sparks for their review. So it's not like this, even if this were still valid, we're really not missing out on the whole cooperative planning process.
Well, excuse me, Patricia, wasn't your question, didn't it have to do with the protection of the rural areas? Was that your question? And
That's
this
correct.
map does not point out the rural areas. So I understand your concern, but if you go to the regional plan itself and study it, it explains to you the layers, the different layers that we now have in the regional plan that show the spheres of influence and what's allowed in certain layered areas. And the rural areas are extremely well protected in the regional plan, extremely well. And when we rewrite the Washoe County Master Plan and the area plans, they will continue to be protected. But those plans have not occurred yet. Does that help?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Then I guess, no questions to staff. Let's open it up for public comment. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Well, we have no public comment. Any further commission questions of staff? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion on the amendment or the initiation? Seeing none, I guess I'll call, Council Edwards, we can do both of these together, can't we? The
Yes.
initiation and the amendment? Or do we
Yes.
have to do them separately?
No, you can do them together.
Chair
Okay,
Chesney?
great. Commissioner Doncheck?
I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission initiate the amendment to Washoe County Code, Chapter 110, to remove all sections within 434, Regional Development Standards within Cooperative Planning Areas, and all of Washoe County, and Article 822, provisions for amendments to local master plans and zone changes in areas subject to cooperative planning under the Regional Plan Settlement Agreement as described in the staff report for WDCA 20-0003. I further move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission recommend approval of WDCA 20-0003 to amend Washoe County Code 110 to remove all sections within Article 434, Regional Development Standards within Cooperative Planning Areas, and all of Washoe County, and Article 822, provision for amendments to local master plans and zone changes in areas subject to cooperative planning under the Regional Plan Settlement Agreement as described in the staff report for this matter. I further move to authorize the chair to sign the resolutions contained in Exhibit A on behalf of the Washoe County Planning Commission and to direct staff to present a report of this commission's recommendation to the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners within 60 days of today's date. This recommendation for the approval is based on all of the following four findings in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110.118.15, parentheses E.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I will second, Chair.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Doncheck and a second by Commissioner Payton. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. So I'm going to close the public hearings and bring it back to the commission for item 9. Chair and commission items.
Chair Chesney, I do have something.
Okay,
Or this would be a request from staff, so no, I'll wait.
okay,
I have something.
okay, shoot.
Uh,
Commissioner Bruce.
I would like to know when we are going to start trying to make an effort to get closer to what we used to consider normal, as to having not requiring Zooming of commissioners, making it optional, but providing all of us, if necessary, if we want, given that the governor has said that 50% capacity of the facility is allowed, et cetera. And I think that we need to start working on that, if not actually getting some of it done. And I would like to know when we're going to start trying to have an availability for the public to have some attendance as well.
If I'm free to
Secretary
answer.
Lloyd.
Well, I think we are moving in that direction. I know that this meeting, we weren't quite ready. We weren't there yet. We do know that the county commission has already started opening up their doors for the public on a limited basis with distancing, social distancing and separation requirements. I think we will have communications internally and see if we can do the same thing very shortly. And I don't want to commit just yet, but we would like as soon as possible to open our doors to the public as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any requests for information from staff?
Commissioner Chesney, I would like, if possible, some kind of a flow chart of who's what in what department and the names, because there's been so many renaming of the departments, but honestly, I get confused. So if we could get some kind of a flow chart within the departments of who's in charge, who's under them, who reports to who, it might make it a little easier for us sometimes when we're asking questions or trying to understand.
And absolutely, that's a great request. I'll make sure I get that out to all of you. An org chart would certainly help.
Great.
Thank you.
Any further requests?
I have one. It came to my attention recently when applying for a business license through the department, especially for Incline Village, Crystal Bay business licenses. It seemed to me that Dan had some comments about something that we can do to maybe streamline the process for applicants and the department. And I'd like to maybe request from him what those recommendations are so we can bring it to the committee and see what those might be.
Which Dan? Dan Hawley or Dan Kalan?
Kalan.
Okay,
Yes.
That's really not a planning commission.
That's not exciting.
Oh,
right.
strike that?
Yeah, that's a process issue.
Okay.
Within,
Trevor can tell you who would.
within whatever they're calling the department today.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the idea. We're always looking for process improvements, especially coming from your side as you're making an application.
Yeah.
So, but we need to talk offline. If you have any ideas, we're always open for ideas
Sure.
to make
He
the
had
process
mentioned
better.
it to me to bring it up here, which is why I
Oh.
did, so.
Great.
No, I agree with
Okay.
Chair Chesney that not appropriate this form.
Okay.
Yeah, business licenses don't come before the planning commission.
Yeah, okay.
Thank God. Okay, Directors and Legal Counsel items. Item 10, A, report on previous planning commission items.
Okay, well, actually, before we go there, I have a future agenda item.
Okay.
I think next month, we'd like to bring a status, an update to, in terms of the master plan, where we are with master plan update. I know that Eric Young would like to give you all just a brief where we are.
Great.
Emphasis on brevity.
I'm sorry?
Emphasis on brevity.
I will make that very clear, yes.
Great, that's great.
Report on previous planning commission items. If you remember, last month, you heard 4 items, 4 master plan amendments to 4 of the elements. Those all went to the county commission on the 22nd, where they adopted each of these amendments. So I'll be forwarded on to regional next. That's all I have. Oh, I'm sorry, there was also a code amendment of Article 406. These were the industrial design standards where they're adjacent to residential. Those were also adopted on the 22nd.
Okay, do we have any legal information or updates?
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Hey, I just have an item, and maybe I got it out of order, but some time ago, I got volunteered for the Regional Transportation Commission's Road Impact Fee and Technical Advisory Committee, and I attended my first meeting of it by Zoom. And it gives you a really, Regional is working with RTC, as are all the entities, the cities, and the county, to look at where we're going with roads and funds available and the process of getting federal funds and state funds and developer fee funds and all those sorts of things. It was a very interesting meeting, and the more I attended, the more, but I want to get back to this commission to let you know, oftentimes we look at some of these projects and go, my God, the infrastructure's so far behind, how can we deal with any more development? And truly, RTC is working really hard with NDOT and the feds and everybody to try and get these projects and these corridors upgraded. It was pretty interesting, and that's just kind of like a meeting report for you guys. Anyhow, so do we have any general public comment?
We do not.
Seeing none, I would call for.
Motion to adjourn?
What?
Oh, wait.
We are
I want to
adjourned.
be on there, get it fast.